the culture of bribery and the culture of those in power to take advantage of their position is kind of a given.
Mm.
I mean, I guess there in some cases you could say that that's true of America, but we think it's wrong when we uncover it. In Mexico, it's, what do you mean? Like it is in European countries. You know, when people were surprised that President Clinton was having an affair, like,
Yeah.
you're really making, that's shocking too. That, you know, every prime minister has a mistress on the side, or
Yeah.
you know. So when people say that there's racism in America, yes, of course, because people will find reasons to hate others.
Yeah.
But America is not the worst example of it.
Well, this is kind of jumping ahead, but do you think that there's anything that we can do in schools to kind of help kids not develop racist perspectives or hatred toward people who are different? I'm kind of jumping more theoretical.
Yeah, that's kind of tough for me to answer in the affirmative, because if there's an overwhelming peer pressure is more powerful than authoritative lecturing, teaching examples. Family is much more powerful at certain ages than schools can be at certain times. So I think that if there is any way to teach it differently, that it has to be modeled by the instructors. I don't think it would have mattered to me to think that somebody thought what I was doing was wrong. Like there a helicopter going on. But my parents modeled that behavior. You know, we had my mom's black co-workers come over. We had my dad's gay friends come over for dinner. And it was never something that they try to keep the kids away from. So to me, my parents pointed out what was common to all of us. So I guess if there was an attempt to remove which I think racism has its roots in some sort of xenophobia, there has to be a sense of making people human and reminding everyone that whether it's the Ethiopian, whether it's the Jew, whether it's the Italian, whether it's the Mexican, whether it's the immigrant, whether it's the president, that everyone in our core pretty much the same. Different ways of expressing it, you know. I think stereotypes are stereotypes because there's some truth to it, you know. So yeah, there's different expressions, different foods, different customs, different ways of dressing, but really in the end, you know, an Asian family, a black family, a Cuban family, a Mexican family, they don't generally hate their kids. You know, they generally love their children. They generally hold to values of like honesty and truth, and they want their kids to do better than they did. You know, there's a lot more that I think that binds us together than keeps us apart. So I find myself pushing back against people who would want to make ethnic identifiers one of their primary identifiers, almost as much as when someone mentions that maybe one of their first or primary identifiers is their sexual orientation. I never understood that. Because it seems like there's so much more to your humanity than who you decide to sleep with. But hey, that's me.
So you mentioned that that when you were a kid you hung out with other Hispanic kids?
No.
No.
No, because I grew up in a city, in a suburb, a bedroom community of Los Angeles, where we were one of the few Mexican families in the community. So most of my friends were white, and a few black kids, but they were the kids or the younger brothers and sisters of somebody who was working in the school system. And I recall when this one black coach, schoolyard monitor, pulled me aside to say, "Hey, why do you hang out with Goody and Rudy?" These two black brothers. When I say brothers, I don't mean they were black brothers. I mean they were physically related to each other. They were both black and had the same mom and dad. And I said, "What do you mean?" I would think I was maybe 8, 9 years old. He said, "Yeah, see, you know, Goody is black. You're brown." And I went in my head. I went literal. I said, "Goody's not black. He's brown, and I'm white." You know, because in a literal sense, my color, thinking of colors, he was brown. I was white. You know, I wouldn't know what you would call white people at that point. You know. But he says, no, man, you're brown. He's black. You can't be friends. And so he was trying to embed or train me in racism, not intentionally, but I think he, as a young man of the '60s, was very race conscious and just assumed that we, you know, a black and a Mexican children could not be friends. So when you try to point out the color differences, and I said, what are you talking about? He's brown. I'm white. No one's black. Like, who's black? You know, that made no sense to me. So racism, I discovered even then, had to be taught.
Yeah.
It's not normal to be xenophobic. It's not natural. You have to be taught to fear the other. And my parents never reinforced our sense of separateness from others. They reinforced the sameness.
Do you think that fear is... So fear is the basis of racism. Do you think it's the basis of all kind of intolerance, or... Sure,
absolutely. Right, so what I don't know, what I don't understand, may not be good or healthy, so I don't want it. I don't want it near me. I don't want it around me. I don't want to be exposed to it. I don't want to find out that I'm wrong. So yeah, I think xenophobia is, in the end, sure, of course it's fear. It's nothing logical or rational, but neither is fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my humble opinion.
Did your parents speak English at home, or did they speak Spanish, or
both? Because of my latent speech abilities, the speech therapist that I was taken to and others recommended that my parents speak English and play English radio and English TV and that kind of thing, because apparently in their estimation I was confused by the exposure to both languages. Maybe I was retarded, I don't know. But so that was probably the impetus to my parents wanting to, again, they don't think I had a word for it, but to assimilate. And I never felt the need, nor did my parents, to hang on to my ethnic, you know, identifier as a Mexican, to be an authentic human being. You know, authenticity as a human being was always measured in terms of, you know, are you a good employee? Are you a good person? Are you doing the right thing? Not, are you true to your culture? Or do you know the language? Do you know the history of your land? Again, my parents exposed me to the culture, the food, the music, the dance, the smells of it. I mean, my family was Mexican. It's not as if I could avoid it. We went to Mexico every 2 years. They took us to the National Museum in Mexico City. They exposed us to the art, to the literature of Mexico, but not in a sense of like, here's the motherland. Here's what you have to remember. It was like, this is what we grew up with. This is part of our story. Some of it was beautiful. Some of it was like, oh, okay. So a lot I left on the table. I understand that, but I mean, to your question, is it based mostly in fear? Yes. There isn't a rational decision that says I should hate this person who's different because they're different. I mean, that's irrational. You know, it has nothing to do with reason. It has everything to do with some sort of fear. And maybe even the fear that somehow if they succeed, we lose. You know,
and vice versa.
And vice versa, versus why can't we all just win together?
Right.